Yeah, good evening, televiewers, and welcome to yet another exciting edition of our program, Mountain Echoes. Today, maybe few days for us to celebrate the grace feast season of Lent. We shall be introducing, looking at the topic. It's no news to us that our Holy Father, Pope Francis, has been down with health challenges since February 14, 2025, Valentine's Day, of course. And God made that to happen that particular way. A feast also of St. Methodius and the other. We know have that information, and we shall be looking at this topic, like I said, bishops, Christians united in prayers for the Pope's quick recovery. We need to get into that to get a correspondent also from Rome to tell us what has been happening, what has happened in the country, Cameroon, and in the Diocese of Boya in particular. We're going to be looking at all those ingredients as far as the Pope's health issue is concerned. We know that some persons over the social media having indications that the Pope is very, very sick. Some even said he died and all those things. And we thought it's necessary to bring on board what is the right information about what is happening in the Vatican to you all, our Christians, our viewers of DMR TV, and our very special friends of Mountain Echoes. Once more, good evening. Happy New Month to all our viewers of Mountain Echoes. And we have our guest with us today, the studio. We begin by my right. We have Father Emmanuel Pierre. Father, good evening and welcome.
Thank you very much, Father Ernest. Good evening. Good evening, fellow viewers of the Divine Mercy Syrian Television and Mountain Echoes in particular. It's a pleasure for me to be back here on this podium to give my own contribution to this topic which we have discussion today. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Father, and Happy New Month, and thank you for accepting the invitation. We have Pa Gabriel Jikang. Good evening and welcome.
Father, it's my pleasure. I'm honored and respected to be part of this very, very highly selected panel. What a privilege for me to be amongst them. The big heads you have in the church. That is it. And I'd like to give a big shout out to some of our people there. My teachers back in the major seminary, so I hope I'll be able to represent them well, and they won't find any flaws in the arguments or the things I will say. I'm talking about Emeritus Archbishop Cornelius von Temeswell, who taught me theology, second and third year theology, taught me patristics and church history, and I'm talking about Monsignor William Neba, who equally taught me church history, and Monsignor Lucas Sanusi, who did a lot of work teaching us church history and contemporary religions. Thank you very much, Father, for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pan Gabriel. And we have Dr. Bate by my right. Doctor, good evening and welcome.
Thank you very much, Father Ernest, for the opportunity to be here again. It's always a pleasure to be on set on this platform to share knowledge and to help our people understand that, give them the correct knowledge, because nowadays with a lot of write-ups in the social media, people are very gullible. They don't know what exactly to take back home. And so I think sitting here this evening on this panel, and as fervent and devoted Catholics who always pay allegiance to the Holy Father, who will give our only two insight of what we know about the topic of today.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Bate. I'm sure we kick the ball rolling immediately. Like I said before, Christians united in prayers for quick recovery of Pope Francis. We have some few questions. First, we'll begin with Father Emmanuel Pierre. Father, what is the significance, therefore, of Pope Francis to the global Christian community? And why is his ill health a matter of concern for so many?
Thank you very much for that. The Pope is the head of the Church. Is a uniting factor. He is the leader of the Church, and his health is of great concern for the Church. You know, it's not easy to get a Pope, and so losing one means a lot for the Church. That's why his personality, and not only for the Church, the entire world, for what he represents as a spiritual leader, and it makes him very, very important. So his health should be a concern not only for the Catholic Christians, but for the entire world, which benefits from his efforts, his prayers, and also his opinions, because he has a moral responsibility also is a moral figure in the world at large. So that makes him very, very important, and is held a major concern for all and sundry.
Yes, so far, Father, it's not news to us that the Pope has been buried and killed and buried severally on social media. What do you have for these viewers? I don't know if is it out of concern, is it out of love, or it's just that maybe they wanted the information to come to them like the first persons, or maybe they just forwarded as received. What do you have for this kind of controversy?
I dare say, Father Ernest, these are some of the weaknesses of the social media. Not weaknesses as such, I would say misuse of such vital means of communication and information. Many people start to say, take advantage of this for their own selfish ends. I don't know why somebody would want the Pope dead or spread such false information. Well, I know many people are trying to use it as for the economic reasons to make money for such information, which is a very, very poor thing to do. It's sad to say that people are misusing this vital organ of information.
Yeah, Panjikan.
Just to buttress what Father Ipe said there, which he said very succinctly, just to buttress it, the importance of the Pope. Yeah. It's not just the Pope. Just the Pope, when they say it, you may think that he's talking lightly. We were talking about a Pope who's not just the head of the Roman Catholic Church, but who's the head of state as well. Yeah. He is a head of state, and I like the way you put it in church teachings. He is the supreme pontiff. The word supreme pontiff has a very strong significance. He is a supreme pontiff. Now take yourself back into history, the medieval periods. In the medieval periods, how were the popes before the time of the two papacies, the papacy of Avignon? How was the Pope? The Pope was not just any kind of person. He was a moral authority. Father said it very clearly, and at the same time, he was that figure who signified what? A universality. How many heads of state are universal? They're all limited to their sovereign states. But this is somebody you are calling a universal head. So that is part of why it should be important for people to think about it. I'm talking about a period I think church history will tell us and medieval history will tell us from 1073, when the papacy was moved to Rome, from Avignon to Rome. When the papacy went seated in Rome, it was very, very significant. And the Pope at that time were told they had soldiers. The Pope was guarded. He had soldiers. He had army, very strong military base that could fight his enemies, because the popes were not just any kind of people. They were heads of state and who had to be taken care of. So such a person going or losing him is just concern for not just the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholics, and politicians and political figures, because he is a political head. I think I just wanted to add that to what Father Ipe said, which he said. Father, I'm sorry, I was not digging anything out of it. I was just trying to butcher what he said.
Yeah, it's okay. Yes. Thank you very much, Panjikan, for the little you had to add on that. And then to Panjikan, following on this same life for Christians united in prayers for the recovery of Pope Francis, how have Christians around the world united in prayer for the Pope's recovery? And what does this reflect about the power of faith and solidarity?
Yes, I think you help me here to tell me that the scripture says very clearly, mourn with those who mourn, rejoice with those who rejoice. Is that St. Paul's talking about that? St. Paul says that. So the Catholic Church is feeling bad, the Roman Catholic Church. We have our head who is not well. And all of us, being brothers and sisters, being one another's keeper, we're trying to show solidarity to say that, oh, you are in trouble. I mean, get to what we call the African philosophy, the African concept of it. Socialism. What does African do? You go to cry die for one who has lost somebody. You go to death celebration for one who is born. So the Pope, the concern for all of us is that we think that this man who is in this state, God should take care of his situation. Everybody is thinking about the God taking care of his situation. And like we say in theological studies, whatever you are, everybody believes in an ultimate being, an ultimate reality. And that ultimate reality is one we are calling God. Others call him all kinds of names. The humanists, the Hindus, the confessionists and give all kinds of names to him. But he is God. And so we are united to say that God, whom we look unto, should take care of this person, because he is a human being like all of us. He is a person like all of us. Far and above all, he is a person. He is created from God's image and likeness. So they must be concerned about that, Father. That is where it comes out to all of us being human, being social, being one another's keeper, and like I said earlier, mourning with those who mourn and rejoicing with those who rejoice. The Catholics are in deep prayer, and every day around the place, like today, the Catholic Men Association, I saw a message from my president of there is some president of the CME asking us to intensify our prayers for the Pope, for the Bishop, for everybody. To intensify. So what does that mean? That we must, prayer is the key now. I saw somebody saying, Dr. Bate soon will tell us where that song came from. Prayer is the key. Prayer is the key.
And prayer is a master key.
Anyway,
Pajikan will be coming back to that, and then to Father Emmanuel. The same question: how are the Christians around, the Christians in Cameroon in particular, maybe putting themselves united in prayer for the Pope's recovery? Do you have maybe how far have they gone with that?
So, Enes, you know very well that the Mass is the greatest prayer which we have in the Catholic Church, and we know in every Mass there is a special place for prayer. The Pope is highly remembered, is prayed for during Mass. So that is one aspect where Christians don't fail. Every day at Mass, they pray for the Pope, whether he is sick or not, because they are conscious of the fact that he has an enormous responsibility, and he needs God's help, God's guidance, and God's grace to be able to manage the office and to be able to fulfill his task, his daunting task. Christians, ever since he took ill, there have been various prayer programs organized at the level of the Vatican, and also at the various dioceses, and various dioceses have also taken part. For example, I think today at the midday at the Vatican, there was the Rosary Prayer, which was led by Cardinal Roberto Francis Provost, which involved all the entire at St. Peter's Square. So, you know, St. Peter's Square is a place where you get a greater number of persons, pilgrims, and also tourists who come in there. So the prayer was organized today for that. And also in the days past, similar action has been taken in that regard to pray for the Pope. It shows how much concern the Christians, and not only Christians, are praying, and even non-Catholics are also praying for him. So this far, I think that's how the Church has been able to factor that.
The bishops of Cameroon had a special mass for him also.
Okay. Yeah, kindness. We are just reminded also that Cameroonian bishops, Christians united in prayer for the Pope's recovery. Kindness or something for that, and then we hit the ball rolling. Continue, kindness.
More than 10 days have passed since the February 14th announcement on the Vatican News official webpage informing the general public that Pope Francis had been admitted at the Gemelli Hospital for bronchitis treatment. As days unfolded, further updates revealed some respiratory tract infections on both lungs, a situation underlined as critical. In fact, it was noticed during the Wednesday audiences of February 5th and 12th, respectively, that Pope Francis began with symptoms of cold, which led him to apologize to his listeners and ask Father Pierluigi to help read out the catechetical lesson of the day.
Cari fratelli e sorelle, buongiorno. Adesso sentiremo la catechesi di oggi, sempre sulla linea dei vizi e virtù. Io ho chiesto a Monsignore di leggerla, perché io ancora non posso. Grazie.
Throughout the world, the updates from Vatican News on the Pope's health situation has had varied reactions. In Rome itself and in some Catholic dioceses and churches around the world, prayer sessions have been organized for the Pope's health to improve. At St. Peter's Square, where the Pope normally gives his catechesis, Christians have been braving the winter cold to gather by 9 p.m. since Monday 26 February to pray the Rosary for the Pope's health, asking for the maternal intercession of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Some media pages and social platforms on their part have gravely twisted the information under varied headlines, supposing the Pope's being in an irrecoverable state, and others even publishing reports indicating his death. Being the Jubilee Year of Hope, the Church continues to pray for the Holy Father and hope for an improvement in his health.
That was Father Alphonse Kima has been part of the prayer sessions of St. Peter's Square in Rome, and now we got the briefing from him himself concerning this sequence of prayers and events so far. We wanted to say many thanks and gratitude to Father Alphonse Kima, and we get more from him as time unfolds. Equally, like we said today, the bishops joined with Christians also in Cameroon for the same exercise, praying as one for the Pope's quick recovery. We have that. Christians in Rome, Christians Cameroon's bishops, Christians united in prayer for the Pope's recovery. Hundreds, including Cameroon's bishop and Christians faithful, gathered at the Mary Queen of the Apostles Basilica in Volé, Yaoundé, this Monday, March 3rd, 2025, to pray for the health of Pope Francis. The Holy Father, 88-year-old, has been hospitalized since February 14 due to complications from bronchitis which escalated into double pneumonia. The solemn pontifical mass was officiated by His Excellency Archbishop José Avellino, the Apostolic Nuncio to Cameroon and Equatorial Guinea. In his homily, Archbishop expressed profound gratitude to the congregation. His Grace Andrew Nkea, Archbishop of Bamenda and President of the National Episcopal Conference Cameroon, NEC, also addressed the assembly, urging continuous intercession for the Pope's recovery. The Basilica resonated with the voices of young children whose innocent prayers were especially encouraged, reflecting the belief that God attentively listened to the petitions of the young. The figure of St. Peter and the Apostle was invoked, drawing parallels to his intercession for his ailing mother-in-law, as the faithful now seek his intercession of Pope Francis, the current successor of St. Peter. The prayer session in Cameroon aligns with global acts of solidarity as Catholics worldwide hold vigils and offer prayers for the Pope's swift recovery. Notably, hundreds recently gathered in St. Peter's Square to pray the Rosary for the Holy Father's health. Latest reports say Pope Francis' condition has shown signs of improvement. The Vatican announced that he is stable, no longer requires mechanical ventilation, and continues to receive supplemental oxygen. The Pope has been able to rest well, drink coffee, read newspapers, indicating a positive trajectory in his recovery. Thank you very much, Kindness, for that. And we continue with, like we said, the health issue of the Pope and what Christians, bishops, Christians alike, united in prayer, what they have been doing for his quick recovery, like we said before. And to Dr. Bate, what role does the Pope Francis' leadership play in addressing global issues, and how might his health impact these efforts?
Well, following what my predecessors have already said, the co-panelists have already said about the person of the Pope is a leader, and so his contribution, most often than not, comes to remind all other world leaders of making laws that have the human being at the center.
Yeah.
The Pope has always emphasized on that. And so most often, when the world leaders are discussing world issues, when it gets to the Pope, he writes an encyclical to direct the mind of the world leaders towards leading people like how Christ wants them to lead. In 2015, when there's so much talk about climate change came up, the Pope wrote an encyclical called Laudato Si to talk to world leaders to advise leaders on how to handle climate change and its impact on the local population. He was emphasizing, I'm very sure after reading the document, he was looking at the moral aspect that world leaders are neglecting. So he was advising world leaders that as we are making these laws and whatever concerning climate change, you should take into consideration the morality. the Pope has also advised world leaders on the impact of wars on human beings. He has talked about that so many times. We have heard him come out clearly to advise stronger nations on their interventions in politics of weaker nations, and to make sure that let them actually be going. If, for example, if America is coming to Cameroon when there is war, they should really be that they want to save the human beings that are under attack, not because of America's selfish interests. And so, the Pope in global issues does not stay quiet. That's the first thing. And I'm very sure that because many people think that because he's a religious leader, he shouldn't talk about world issues. No. If any law is made that does not take the human being at the center of it all, there is no law. It's for selfish interest. And so,
Dr. Bati, don't land, please. The Pope talked about the crisis in Cameroon. He didn't talk about it. Prayer for peace to reign in Cameroon. He dedicated it, and he called on not just Cameroonians but the world over, the world at large, to join Cameroon in praying for peace in this our called Anglophone crisis. He talked to the Israeli leader, talked to the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, and asked him to stop the bombing on the Hamas and the rest of the. I'm talking about war. You talked about war. Yeah. So he's been very, very concerned. What about slavery? The Pope has condemned several. Human trafficking. He has condemned it. Abuse on women and children. The Pope has always come out. So, like you said, he's a moral figure and remains a moral figure. And of course, he will call to order other heads of states and other leaders who are getting into selfish and personal reasons and personal gains. No, he stands for all of humanity. That's what his leadership is for everybody, for all of humanity. And like he said, you remember even, I want to take you back to the 18th and 19th century, where we had what we called the period of despotism. Before you got to the Enlightenment period, the Pope's role was what? To call on these despots to order. The Tsars, Tsar Nicholas, for instance, of Russia, and the rest of the world, being called to order. Until you got the reign of Catherine II, and Joseph II. Before all this came, they had not to work on what the Pope at the time called the work of Pope Clement and the rest of it. Then you had to work on moral principles. You guide and rule men using moral principles. The issues at stake should be all centered around man and the well-being of man. I mean, you had to use your intelligence. In fact, there was a lot of emphasis. Father Pierre will help and buttress that much more. There was a lot of emphasis on reason, intelligence and reason, and not just any kind of self-aggrandizement and the rest of it. So the Pope has always been that kind of leader who stands to correct, who stands to call to order, who stands to rectify, taking it from St. Peter's days. Who is the Pope? The Pope, as we say even in pidgin English, Papa for Roma, na person where it pass all Papa there for the ground. I mean, it is simply said in pidgin English, but it has a lot of meaning and a lot of significance. So I just said that you add to that and you don't forget that.
And then we continue in the same line, like the Pope has been very vocal about poverty and inequality. Yeah. He has cautioned world leaders about this calls for money and the gap between the rich and the poor. Yeah. He has been very vocal about it. And he has also cautioned, the world leaders now in this contemporary time are talking a lot about AI. Everywhere is AI. Yeah. And not very long from, until just a few months back, the Pope cautioned them about the use of AI. Yeah. And even homosexuality. But the world interpreted it in a different direction, thinking that the Pope is for a moral figure of his caliber will never go for such a thing. Yeah. And so the Pope is not indifferent to global issues. Yeah. That's what we want to stand and make it very clear. And like the core of morality in the world, not only for Catholics. That's why these global issues, when the global leaders are meeting, the Pope cannot be there. But his ears are on the ground. And so immediately these global leaders are ending their meeting, you will get an encyclical from the Pope cautioning that the meeting that people had, this decision that people arrive at, will not favor the human beings, put the human being at the center of it. And I think that many countries now are cautioning the young people about the use of social media. Many countries are even banning it. There are some countries that you don't have WhatsApp again. There are some countries that today they don't allow the young people to hold gadgets like smartphones, like especially in the UK. They have asked the young people to go back to analog phones because they cannot decipher what they read or what they get consumed from social media, and think that because the Pope has really hit hard on this, and we know this. There's this Cali country, the Philippines. They don't joke with any of those world issues that the Pope talks about. Especially the time that he wrote about the gap between the rich and the poor. You know, Philippines is a country where the gap between the rich and the poor is very, very wide. And so when the Pope brought that out, I think it became a kind of conscientizing the entire population. Because in Philippines, every little activity, there's prayer. As you get into your office, you must see, even in our movies, in their movies that we watch, you see statues there, and they pay allegiance to that, and they are very faithful to that, as they are devoted Catholics, as I would say. So in all, the Pope is not very quiet or silent when it comes to global issues that will affect the human, because he's there to represent Christ. Christ came to save humanity, and so if he's acting in persona Christi, he's acting as Christ on earth, then he should be ready. He should always try, with the help of God, and the prayers that are always said all over the world during masses, the Eucharistic prayers always mention the Pope, pray for the Pope, to make sure that he leads humanity in the right direction.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm sure maybe Father Emmanuel has something to add as far as this point is concerned, the role of the Pope as a leader, world leader, in addressing global issues.
Yes, the Pope, as the vicar of Christ, you know, his concern, as mentioned already, is the human person in its entirety. So he cannot be silent when the life or humanity is at stake, or things which put the human person in danger, the social issues, political issues, things of hunger and health issues. He has to come up. So when the world leaders come up with their policies, he's there as the guide to make sure that whatever policies they are making should make sure that they factor the human person. They concentrate, they pay more attention. Their interest should be the good of the human person. In the various encyclicals which touch on various issues, current issues in the world, the Pope, they have been very, very vocal on all this. So it shows that he's actually fulfilling his responsibility as the leader, as a world leader, so much that he's not with any bias. He's very, very objective in his approach and in whatever he says, whatever issue he's handling. And it shows also that he is not limited to any particular issue, because you see, like climate change, you know, even the issue of the AI, as just mentioned, and everything, economic issues, once as it affects the human person and it threatens the human person, he comes up and gives the right direction, calls the conscience of the people of the world to see how they are to address those various issues.
Yeah, thank you very much, Father. Yeah.
Another point which he has hammered a lot, advising world leader, is exclusion and marginalization of the weak.
Yeah.
You see, all his encyclicals, all his write-up on global issues, like Father already said, factor the human person at the center. And we know in the Gospel of Luke, Christ came for the poor, those who were socially ostracized, those who were treated as outcasts. And so, as vicar of Christ, the Pope, like Father already mentioned, will always be there to stand as that leader who is for humanity.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm sure maybe Father will give us, could you provide maybe some insight into the Pope's current health condition, and maybe little his history of resilience despite the medical challenges?
Yes, for Ernest, this is the fourth time the Pope is being hospitalized in the Gamelli Hospital since 2021. He was there in 2021, and in 2023 he was there twice. He was there in March for respiratory infection, which he's currently suffering for, and then in June he was there again for abdominal hernia surgery. So it tells you that he, in spite of his age, you remember he's 88 years old, so that means much. He's been battling with these health challenges ever since his pontificate, and he's going there to the Gamelli Hospital for medical attention. And many people were of the opinion that, especially when he had this hip problem, which saw him to the wheelchair, many people were expecting that he was going to resign. He was going to resign. Many people expected that he was going to resign. But remember, some others said, well, he's not going to resign because at the time, Pope Benedict was still alive.
Yeah.
Benedict was still alive. So they said, well, how's it going to look like that we have two popes? Two popes
resigned, yeah.
Resigned. So I mean, people were trying to, to conjecture that he was going to resign. But you see, he has been very, very resistant. You see, in spite of that, he's been struggling with health. There was a certain time he had to travel. He had to make, I think it was in Sudan. He had to make a trip in Sudan. They had to cancel the trip because of his health reasons. And they said he was not going to make that trip. But fortunately, with the medical attention, he had to go on. So it tells you that he has been there. Occasionally he comes and we see him trying to move with the walking stick. And again, when it becomes so hard, he just confines himself to the wheelchair. But you see a man who is determined, to move on, who is determined to carry on, who is determined to fulfill his pontificate right to the end, in spite of the health challenges. I must say, he has actually been very, very brave, taking cognizance of his age, pushing on, and hardly, you see, him giving up. He's always there. For example, his Wednesday audiences, he's always there for the Wednesday audiences, which is a crowd-pulling event. You get people from all over Europe and all over the world, not only Europe and America, and even people from Africa. They attend his Wednesday audience. And also the Angelus, every Sunday at midday at 12. He gives a reflection and he leads the people in Angelus and he blesses them. So he carries out his activities and also his trips out of Rome, out of St. Peter's. And so it shows that he's somebody who has been really a fighter. His health is no deterrence to him to carrying out his responsibility. He's there and he's currently pushing on. And we continue to pray that God may continue to give him the grace. And that's why the church is concerned about his health, to see that he has the grace to carry out this responsibility as head of the church.
Father, just a second. As you were talking, the reflection came into my mind and this first thought came. It's not just looking at it and just moving on and just moving on. Look at the whole story, Jesus' story on the way to Calvary. How many times did you tell us that he fell? He tell us that he fell several times,
yeah.
Right? 3 times recorded, but he fell severally, right? And was beaten. And in the Bible, the scripture said very clearly, and the translators who did very well in pidgin, they say, they flog him plenty time. They flog the naki, blood and water come out for his skin. And you get what that means. And he moved on. Jesus did not give up. He persevered and moved on until. So that is what I think. That our current Pope, even being a Jesuit, that has a lot to play on him. That he is a big follower of Jesus. The followers of Jesus, the particular congregation he belongs to, they adhere to a lot of perseverance and fighting, keeping on till they get the end of the fight. Yeah. The fight was not physical fight, but spiritual fight. So I was thinking that when Father Pierre was talking, and thanks very much, he led me to that the Pope has been resilient, because this brings into his mind every little second, what did Jesus pass through when he was in the way to Calvary? Because he had a mission to do what? To save humanity. The Pope, like you said, has a mission to save all the followers of Christ, to lead us to Christ. And he knows that part of, like we say, his own judgment will be the people you entrusted to the world. How did you lead them? So he must continue until God will say, my son, well done. Come and take the place I've reserved for you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Panjikang. And still back to Father Pierre. How does the Pope's, you mention of his age, 88, how does the Pope's age and the medical history influence his ability to continue his duties as the leader of the Roman Catholic Church?
Well, his age, like I said, mentioned already, is not a deterrence to his work. Okay, you see him in spite of the age and the health challenges he is facing, see him carrying on. Like I said earlier, some people expected that, especially with the fact that he was confined. I think he was one of the first in the recent times to have that challenge, to see a Pope in the wheelchair. Yeah. Many people expected, I mentioned already, that he was going to resign. Okay, because how is he going to manage? You see, most of the time, even at the ceremonies there, you have to sit. And I remember last Holy Thursday, Holy Thursday celebration in Rome at St. Peter's. He sat there. He was in the presence, and he was the bishop of the archbishop, the prefect of the bishop of Rome. I forget now. He was the one who presided over the ceremony. The bishop of the Saint, this thing is escaping me now. Anyway, so he's there. He was there most of those occasions. He sits there in the presence, and some other person presides, officiates the
Whereas that
ceremonies.
was what we were supposed to do.
What we're supposed to do in his place. No, because of his health, he sits down there, and another cardinal, he deputizes another person to perform this responsibility for him. That's the cardinal in charge of the Lateran Basilica. He was the one who presided over. His name escapes my memory now. Sorry.
So how can people of faith draw inspiration from the Pope's perseverance during these health struggles?
Sickness. Sickness is not a punishment.
Yeah.
That's what we have to understand. We look at the spiritual value of sickness. Sickness is not punishment. Sickness is a way of you to appreciate the value of health and life in general. Because at times when you're well, you'll be tempted to take many things for granted. Even your health, you may take it for granted. But when you take ill, then you realize that no, health is wealth. Health is a blessing. Yeah. At times, you find yourself, if somebody who likes walking, you keep on walking, but the body needs rest. And if you don't give that rest to the body, nature has its own way to factor that out. Nature takes its own rest, and it does that through sickness. Yeah. Because when you are sick, there are certain things you can't do. So you are compelled, to take a rest. So sickness is an opportunity for us also to feel the suffering, the pain and suffering of those who are ill, okay, and associated also with suffering of Christ. So like Mr. Njikan also mentioned, so you see yourself and you feel for those who are sick and you know what they are going through, and also it makes you to be able to value life. I remember back in seminary, at times, you could be very, very busy, because of the seminary program and everything. You listen, you hear that there's a brother who is sick and everything is in his room. You're expected to go and visit that brother. But because of your busy schedule, at times you fail to go and visit that person. But when you take ill, then you get into that person's shoes. You know what it means to be sick. When you stay there in your room and nobody passes by, then you understand what persons who are ill go through. So sickness is an opportunity for us also to learn, the value of life, what others go through, and to empathize and to feel for them also, and to be able to share their pain. And it makes you to think differently when you hear that somebody is not well. In the case of the Pope, it gives him, not that he knows very well the value of life and everything, but it's for us, the people, to know that, okay, he too is human. Yeah. He too can be sick. He is not a superhuman person. He's also a frail human being, and that's why it calls for us to pray for him also and show him that concern. Because at times we say, but how can we be praying for the Pope? The Pope is the one who's supposed to pray for us. Yeah. No. He also needs our prayers, especially at this critical moment when he is he's sick.
Yeah, thank you very much, Father Pierre. I'll still back to you. Your stay over there. We following over the social media, we see many persons this time around. Many, I don't know if that has always been the case in Rome, especially around the hospital. You see many persons, people stop by even with their cars, young people, old people, religious men and women, priests, just to have a stop there and to be sure that the Pope, everything is, going well, to offer prayers and the rest. So is that maybe a kind of mentality? I don't know what is it? What are they telling us? What are they telling the world?
Of course, for the NS, it shows how much concern they have for the Pope. And he has been one of the figures, the Pope, his purpose has been that one which is down to earth. He's very, very close, especially to the poor. Yeah. If you go to St. Peter's, for example, and migrants, if you go to St. Peter's, there is a special statue there which he constructed about migrants, for migrants. Yeah. It's very, very, because it shows a representation of all the cultures, all the races Okay, it tells you that he has concern for the poor and the underprivileged. Okay, so in a particular way, it touches people, especially the young. Okay, so they trooping at the hospital to be sure that he's okay. It shows also their concern for him. It's a way of expressing their love and the concern for the Pope, and also the fact that they appreciate what he is doing for humanity.
Yeah, thank you very much for Emmanuel, and to Dr. Bate. We're still talking about the Pope's, how can people draw, maybe people of faith draw inspiration from the Pope's, ill health, which he has been battling with it, especially this time around, since from the 14th of February to date, 14, and then we had the 28th, that was 2 weeks, and today is the 3rd, so it's 2 weeks and some days.
Well, personally, when I watched some pictures about the TV station, I saw him smiling.
Yeah.
I saw him smiling with a lot of hope, and I was like, this is somebody that the whole world is talking about his era, because those TV stations really broadcasted it. They were showing it minute by minute, I even turned on to EWTN.
Yeah.
I could still see him with the rosary on the hand shaking.
Yeah.
And it inspired me. I want to be very sincere to you, Father. That same night before I went to bed, I had to say 1 decade of the rosary for the Pope. I saw somebody in pain. Not like, I did not seem like a leader, but somebody in pain, but trusting that there is somebody who can make me well.
Yeah.
And giving hope to the many people who are looking onto him. And I just try to reconcile like an intellectual, that maybe he's trying to do that as a leader, that okay, we have come together, we have said that this is a jubilee of hope.
Yeah.
So let me, as a leader, let me try to show hope to the people. So that, because if, like scripture says, if you hit the shepherd, the sheep will scatter.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that many people are praying based on what he has lived, the legacy he has lived. He's showing people. If you are those of us who follow his personal life and whatever, you realize that he's so committed to prayer. I build my trust and faith for the rosary from how I follow him. Like Father was just saying, that the Angelus, I try to imitate it. Even I'm in a car, 12 o'clock, I make sure that I pray the Angelus. I try to pray the rosary every day. I think from his faith, it has inspired me to build my own faith. And I'm sure that's the more reason why many people have been touched, and they are trooping in to say, Papa, we are with you in spirit, and why not in truth?
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Bate, for that. Panjikang, what biblical or spiritual principle encourage collective prayer during times of crisis like this kind of crisis with our Holy Father?
Thank you very much, Father. Father Epio will be better placed to give us some citations and give exact citations about.
We'll be coming to him, yeah.
But you can say that Christianity, we are one.
Yeah.
And you the choral and musical experts tell us that we are one, we are together, we are one. Yeah. You keep singing every day. The Carrots of Mary, whom Archbishop Kia and some of us admire very much for some of the things they say. They talk about we are one together, we are one. And most of our brothers of the right churches have imbibed all this. So what is it all? That we live as one. One body, one soul. We're made of the same image. Everybody has a mouth, they say. Everybody has a nose and everybody has a neck. Even those who have problems with their nose and necks, we still have sympathy with them because we see them as not being the complete. So this is to say that the oneness and solidarity, which is what? Basically human. It's a human principle, it's a human concept. Found right from the early days in the Jewish history. Get back to even your biblical study. Go to the book of Deuteronomy. You see a lot of that there. What happened to the Israelites when they were being taken from Egypt to the promised land? They were moved together. And we're not told that amongst them there were thieves and there were wizards and witches amongst them. They all moved together through the Red Sea. That's the spirit of collegiality, the spirit of oneness, leading them on. And then we remember when they got into the desert and Moses had made the blunder he made. They all felt very bad that at least, hey, The man who was leading us cannot reach the promised land like us. He leaves us here and abandons us. And what did they say? Take us back to where you took us, where we came from. What were they showing? Solidarity. Man wants to live on and to live a good life. So part of what is leading us then, the second principle is the principle of living a good life. And not one person, everybody to live the good life together. So the principle which the philosophers want to call hedonism, that the principle of living a good life, for you don't know what happens tomorrow. That the principle of living today and live it too well and live it to the full. Live today and live it as if it were your last minute. There's one of those songs that says that, I don't want to say one of those political parties that highlights that, but you live as if this were your last moment. So everybody does that because God will ask you, like it says in Matthew, I was sick and you didn't come to me, you didn't give me clothes, or you didn't look at me. I was poor, I was hungry, and you didn't give me drink, food, whatever thing. You remember the scripture passages more than I do. So it's a whole concept of, and the whole spirit of collegiality, oneness. What the word today we the Africans want to call the spirit of Ujama, Ubuntuism. The spirit of Ubuntuism, that is being together, moving on, all of us moving together. And of course, the Catholic Church has taken it. The whole spirit of synodality. What does that align to? It aligns to the whole factor of everybody on board to move together. So these are some of the principles that are leading, which are from scriptures. Moving together. When the Jews were being led, they were moving together. Nobody was being discriminated. Look at even the Acts of the Apostles. The story of Ananias and Sapphira. What happened? They were not prepared to share. They wanted to hide certain things, and they got punished for that. So what is it? That we live together, we must share in common, we must be together in good times and in bad times. We must be prepared to be one another's keeper. I think those are the principles that are leading these our Christians today to be in sympathy with the Roman Catholics who are at pain because their supreme pontiff is in pain. Yeah. So others want to come in because they must be there when we are there. When we're happy, they're there. When we're sad, the way too should be with them. Being one another's keeper. It's a merry-go-round thing, as you would say. the Chinese will say that very often. It's a merry-go-round. Today na my day, tomorrow na your own. And that's what they said in Pidgin English, right?
Yeah, thank you very much, Panjikan. I'm sure maybe Father Emmanuel has something to add on that.
Yes, we have the text of the Gospel of St. Matthew. Panjikan just mentioned that about the judgment scene, where it says, I was sick, I was in the hospital, and you didn't come to me. That's Matthew 25, verse 36. And we also have the famous text of St. James, chapter 5, verse 14, which tells us about, I think that's one of the foundations of the sacrament of the sick. Tells you, is anyone sick among you? Call the elders of the church and let them come and announce him with the oil. And if he has committed any sins, they'll be forgiven. And also have Psalm 34, verse 18, which talks about the Lord is close to the brokenhearted, and those whose spirit is crushed, he'll save, he'll revive them. So these are various texts which are the many which encourage us in times of sickness. Yeah,
thank you very much, Father. I think maybe we'll get to some more historical context and precedents as far as the Pope's health issue is concerned. Has there ever been a Pope who resigned due to health reasons? This story?
But as a point from history, I can't remember any. I can't remember. I'm sorry, I can't really remember that. But that the Pope resigned because of health reasons, I don't know. Benedict resigned also. It was age, and not really strictly health as such. It was for age, because if you look at in the history, Benedict, if you look at like the Gemelli Hospital, which is the facility which is handling the popes, it has been the hub for many popes, except from John Paul the second. And then he went there 10 times. Okay, he went there 10 times, and that made him to jokingly refer to the Gemelli Hospital as Vatican III. He said Vatican I is St. Peter's. Then Vatican II is the papal resort, summer resort, the Castle Gandolfo. He called that Vatican II. And then the Gemelli Hospital is Vatican III, because of the enormous time he spent there. He went there frequently. During his pontificate, he went there 10 times in that hospital. And Pope Benedict never went there officially. I don't think he never went there. He was never hospitalized there during his pontificate, but he went there to visit his brother, because his brother George was hospitalized there sometime. So it tells you that he was not really, the reason why he resigned was not really from the point of view of health. I can't really think of any pope who happened to have resigned because of health reasons.
Yes. Then still on this issue of Pope Francis' ill health, have the past popes faced similar health issues, particularly this one pertaining to?
Well, of course, like I mentioned already, John Paul II was there frequently. He went there 10 times, the Gamelli Hospital. And talking about the Gamelli Hospital is actually, they call it now, that's the hospital of the popes and everything, because it was, from point of view of Vatican history, it was actually a piece of land just donated in 1934 by Pope Pius XI to the physician and the theologian Adolfo Agostino Gamelli for the purpose of constructing a medical school. That hospital was actually inaugurated in 1962 by Pope John the 23rd, and it became part of the Catholic University of the Sacred Heart, like a quarry in the, which was also founded by Gamelli in 1921 in Milan. Like I mentioned already, Pope John Paul II was the first actually to use that facility. You remember in 1981 when he suffered from multiple gunshots, he was taken there for an emergency operation. And like I mentioned already, he was there for about 10 times. That made him to give that a joke, referred to him as he was became like part of his home, because of his frequency of going there. So I don't think any of them actually, apart from John Paul the second, who went there, but many other popes in past history definitely had health challenges, which I can't actually recall now. But in recent times, John Paul II has been very, very one which has been very much sick, and that his own health challenge, it was a very, very big lesson for the world, because he considered that as he offered that for kind of he took it for a spiritual purpose. He considered his health challenges, and offered it for kind of some form of mortification, and also for the benefit for the conversion of sinners, and also for the forgiveness of sins. So he made it very, very useful in that regard.
Yes, on the succession and church governance, Panjikan, with your knowledge of church history back there in the seminary, what happens if the Pope becomes seriously ill or incapacitated? We do not pray for that, of course.
We don't actually pray.
Look into church history.
We know that being human, it will happen.
Yeah. We
know that being human, it will happen. And nothing is beyond control and beyond God's intervention.
Yeah.
If a Pope becomes incapacitated, there is a procedure.
Yeah.
There is a procedure. Nothing is left in the void as far as the Vatican is concerned, and as far as the Catholic Church is concerned. Everything is so methodic. Let me use a word that Dr. Bato will admire. It's so methodic and so well calculated. If a Pope becomes so incapacitated that he cannot function, there is a prefect who's in charge of the College of Cardinals who immediately takes command. That's already instituted. It's so known that there is a cardinal prefect who is in charge, not in charge, but who is the one next in command. There is a secretary of the Vatican. Father Pierre, you were there with them. You know that you worked and served with them. All that is so. If you become so incapacitated, that procedure will be followed. But it's not even Pope John the 23rd. Even when he called the Vatican, he convened the Second Vatican Council, which he didn't finish. Of course, you remember he didn't finish. That was finished by Pope Paul. That to be finished. But even then, he was incapacitated. He went on and he just continued. It didn't look as if something had even happened, that the Pope had given way. I mean, that is what I'm trying to say, is that if he becomes so incapacitated that he can't function anymore, there is a procedure which is well outlined, which is well laid, which is so methodic, and the next one will take on. And even the people are crying, thinking that he's died, and so many people have been crying. The famous forces that have been going around in social media. Even if he has to die, that's not the way the Pope's death is announced. You get it. Everybody comes out and says the Pope has died. Yesterday somebody embarrassed me in the church. just before communion, I was trying to have my prayers for communion, and somebody came tickling me. See, Zippo don't die, Zippo don't die. I was forced, and honestly, I went out to church. I said, no, let me go and see. So what I'm saying is that there is a whole procedure. It's not like the thing is picked up by anybody. No, there is a way that is announced. There is a prefect who goes to find out whether the Pope is dead or not. There is a procedure. He must go there. We read, he's told 3 times, called his name thrice to see whether there's a response or not before he can make an to call the next. I mean, so we don't get into all that now, but there is a procedure. That's what I'm trying to say. When those things happen, that is the death of the Pope. It's not announced by any Tom, Dick and Harry. Let me use the very banal terminology or expression. It's announced by the prefect, the senior prefect, the senior cardinal amongst all of them, who's in charge of that. And he goes there alone to get to the Pope and calls his name. And we are told thrice even. That's the procedure. And after that, if it doesn't get the response, he knows that he now calls the cardinal and they go again. Same thing does. By the time the other cardinals get to know, it has been promoted. It has been gone round the circle of the cardinals before. So, incapacitation is not a hindrance for the papacy to continue. It's not a hindrance for church doctrine to continue. And it's not a disturbance and an obstacle for moral principles to be taught to humanity, or for documents to be published, encyclicals that the Pope had written that are in the coffer. They will now be published.
Okay, thank you very much. Since you've been talking about cardinals and the College of Cardinals, Father Pierre, what role does the College of Cardinals play in case of papal illness, like the situation we have at hand?
Yeah, well, the College of Cardinals, of course, is quite organized. The next in line, the Cardinal Prefect of the Congregation for the Evangelization and everything. Then also there is the Secretary of State, the Vatican. All those, they have their responsibility. Life goes on. Each of them has their own office. They have the responsibility. Who's supposed to take charge? Who's going to take what? I remember in the case of Pope John Paul II, there was a time, there's a joke that the Africans were saying an African Pope, because there was a time when he had an accident. I think it was in his bathroom, and the Cardinal Arinze, he had to perform a certain function, and because of that state, he had to delegate Cardinal Arinze, and I remember, I think he gave him his crozier to officiate over that mass. So it tells you that when there is that kind of void, and there's that need, there's always a way to go around that. The cardinals in their respective offices, the dicasteries, they take their responsibilities, and life goes on, and as usual. And if in the case of his death, well, the normal procedure which they follow, and the oldest cardinal, dean of the College of Cardinals, takes responsibility until it organizes the election, until when the new pope is elected. But because of the way the church is organized, you hardly feel the impact of the absence. It's just that as a human, we feel that what is no more there, we know that we are aware that it's not there, but life goes on as usual. Things go on because everything is organized, is regimented, everything falls in place.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Emmanuel. Dr. Bate has been silent for a while. Looking at the social media with its the good side and the bad side, with all the misinformation, disinformation, and the rest that we get on the social media concerning the Pope's health. What maybe advice do you give to these users of the social media as far as issues of this issues of this kind of state is concerned? Not necessarily the Pope, but other ones, the Pope wants it. That of the Pope is kind of, like the apex of it. They have similar things that have been happening. What do you tell users of these means or app of communication?
Well, the first thing I want to say is that when somebody is in pain, there's no need to celebrate. You don't celebrate, because people just for me that's celebration. Like just spreading is copy and paste. Especially like sometimes when I'm in the classrooms, I say that Cameroonians, most of us don't know how to use the social media, because we our fingers are always on the forward button, forward as received. And again, there's also the chat GPT that people may get the images of the Pope and downplay the mindset of people, and you may think that it's real image. And so for me, I advise people that before you post or share anything, you should verify the authenticity of that information you want to share. That is, I remember I was attending a conference in somewhere, and they talked about, before sharing an information, be sure that when it comes back to you, you can stand for it. And so most people today, they just share them. It's excitement. They have data. They can easily touch. It's soft touch with the phone. But I think that for a personality like the Pope, we should respect, first of all, his personality before spreading those fake or false information. What we should do as practicing Christians, as those who believe in what scriptures has been teaching us, is that when somebody is in pain, we solicit or we seek the face of God so the person's life can be restored, not like spreading it. If I go around telling people that Father Ernest is sick, Father Ernest is sick, and I cannot have 1 minute to sit down and pray for God's intervention to Father Ernest, then I'm not doing anything, because the scripture already says if a brother is sick, we should pray for him, and that's the responsibility that we should do instead of spreading. I think responsible use of the social media is what I am advocating here. Before you do that, because like for me, when I listen to what the other channel like BBC, Al Jazeera, CNN will say about his health, I tune to EWTN and listen to what the prefect or a cardinal must have said about his health. For the past day, the cardinals have not given anything so frightening, and so they keep saying that it's improving, it's stable, and so you see, for me, I get that because I will say, I will put it in quote, a normal journalist of BBC cannot have access to where he is now, except those who are very close to him in the Vatican, who can give us authentic information. And so there is no need for us to panic. We just keep praying. The Vatican is one of those, I think, is one of the most organized and structured state in the world.
It is. There's no doubt about it.
There's no doubt about it. So everything has put in place. And Pope Francis that I see is somebody who like to deputize a lot of functions to those who are very close to him. And I think that if the time comes that he says, okay, truly I cannot support this anymore, I can now ask that I can freely take my resignation and watch how the church proceeds. So I think those of us, especially Catholics, who are grounded and sound in their doctrine, should not just spread information about the health of the Pope without verifying.
Yeah, Dr. Bati, just something there that people may think that that's what you said, or that's what we're saying. We're not saying that the Pope is preparing his succession. I mean, that let us have it clear. And I don't think Father Pierre, very close to the Bishop Bibi Michael here, will want to listen to that kind of story from us here. That we're saying that the Pope has prepared his succession. No. If tomorrow it happens that is not there, there is a procedure which is carried out. And there is an election that's carried out. Yeah. And by election, we're talking about election. Not the kind of election we do in some of our countries or in some of our organizations, which is carried out, which is very well structured and has a procedure. It has the whole thing about the white smoke, the black smoke, and the announcement made. It is clear and so authentified. You can verify it, and it's so clear. So he cannot designate. Nobody has that mandate to designate his successor. What you said, which I think we are all saying, is that he has attributed functions to others to do, to carry out. And of course, they carried out with his blessings. With his blessings. Nobody does anything behind his back, of course. The dicasteries are all working together in synergy. They work in synergy, and he is there. They take it back to him. The other day, he signed some documents in the hospital. He did sign. Yeah. The secretary brought him, he signed them in the hospital. Soon after his breakfast, I watched that, and he did. So those are things that are done, and like you said, it's a very organized society, very organized institution. I just hope that we have to do that someday in most of our countries.
Yes, Mr. Chigan, you see, there is some, I just want our viewers, and as well Catholics in particular, to know that we have to stay clear and we have to get very careful with the information we get on social media, because there is this frenzy about social media of people wanting to be the first to give information. You see, for example, there's an accident scene, and there are people there who are in need of help, and instead of maybe giving them medical attention or rushing them to the hospital, people pull out their phones and they are taking pictures just because they want to be the first to say happening now. So you put people's life at risk. And also that there is an official way of getting information, especially when the church is concerned. There's official Vatican media, which gives us authentic information of what's going on. So that's trustworthy. If you want to get the truth about what's going on, get to those media organs and you get it. For example, recently also in our diocese, the bishop was involved in an accident and the chancellor had to write officially, to give what is happening, so that you don't defrays that aspect of getting in from on unorthodox means or on authentic sources. So it's just for us to know that the church has its way of doing things, and like we've mentioned already, it's very, very organized, and there is a way of getting information. Things about the Pope, you don't just get them from anywhere. If you want to get the truth, the authentic information, that is where you can find the Vatican News, the Vatican Media, and also EWTN, all these organs which are specialized in this way, and they give us information, the real information about the current state of affairs in the church and on other issues related to the church.
Why not come to people like you? Because you have direct line straight from Rome. You have people you can call from the Vatican.
It's okay, Pranjikang. He's leveled the point already. We don't maybe take things for granted. We follow the right procedures in order to get information that will be good for the Christians. We want to give you an opportunity. Also, maybe I will begin this time around with Dr. Bate. Maybe last words to the viewers as maybe the Pope's health is concerned.
Well, the first thing I want to say is that the Pope's health is stable. It's stable. The second thing I want to assure Christians, especially Catholics, is that we can only offer the best prayer or the first prayer, as we have been taught by the Catechism, to the Pope, which is maybe offering a mass at our different parishes as families for the Pope. And why not, like I said a while ago, take the strongest weapon that he has always given us, the rosary. Maybe as a family we gather, we say a decade of the rosary for the Pope, and why not even a Christian community. And again, we should look up with hope, because we should translate the tendency. Sometimes the challenge I always say is that what our men of God, the priests, have given to us, we want them again to come and help us put it into practice by giving the explanation, a succinct explanation of what, or interpretation, is for you to live it. That's why the Mass, at the end of the Mass, say, go in peace. The Mass is to go and practice what we have only heard during that Mass. So what I'm emphasizing is that Christians should pray as a family, as a church, and look up with hope, because we celebrated some few months back in this diocese, the bishop launched the Jubilee of Hope. And so since the Pope is there, let us be in the mood or the frenzy of hope that he will come, he will address us again as he has been doing.
Yeah, thank you very much. And to Pranjikang, maybe a word to the listener, the viewers of Mountain Echoes.
It's simple. Yeah. Let us keep praying and keep praying and keep praying. Prayer is the key. Prayer is the master key. Yeah. Especially we're getting into a period of Lent in the next 2-3 days. Next 2 days, I think, on Wednesday. We'll get in there and we'll have, after the road for cross, let me say it in pidgin so that we hear it well. After the road for cross, the 14th station, and the last prayer we say, pray for the Pope's intention. So his intention is what? To get well, to be re-established so that he can continue doing his work. So let us all take it very seriously within these 40 days, more especially. Take within the 40. And like our president of the CMA told us, that we should intensify them during the Angelus and the Holy and the Divine Mercy Hour. Yeah. That's the warning that we're giving to all Catholic Men Association members of the diocese, that we should pray for the intention of the Pope and the Bishop during this particular time, during the Angelus prayer and the
Divine Mercy Hour. Oh, thank you very much, and Father Pierre, to the viewers, what do you have?
Yes, Father Ines, prayer is very, very important. I think this the health condition of the Pope, which we're currently experiencing, it's a call, it's a reminder to all of us, Catholics in particular, that we have that responsibility to pray for the Pope. And we don't need to wait for the Pope to be sick or ill before we pray for him.
Yeah.
We have the responsibility to pray for him. And we remember each time, like St. Jikan mentioned, we are currently going to Lent now. And during the Season of the Cross, at the concluding prayers, there's intention for the Pope intention. Now, we should understand that it's not just a formality. I mean, the health of the Pope reminds us of the fact that he actually needs prayers. And not only the Pope, okay, even the priests, the bishops, because of their work, we need to pray for all of them. Okay, I remember in the ordination cards, souvenir cards which we give during ordinations, there's the request there, please pray for. I wonder how many of us actually take the time to pray. Okay, because some of those things are just taking, well, we just get the cards, fight over the cards, get the cards. But there is that honest request that pray for the priest, they need your prayers. Pray for the Pope, pray for the bishop. Not only when they are sick and everything, but every day. Just as they are praying for you. Why do we have to pray for them? It's because we give them that energy so that they will be able to spend that energy on us. Because they serve us, and they cannot serve us if they are not strong enough. So that's why we have to pray for them. So we have to pray for the Pope. Now we remind ourselves of that responsibility. He has also his own private prayer intentions, okay, which are made public at times. Every month he has an intention for various things. So when you are praying for the Pope, you're not just praying for his person, but you're praying also for his intention, his personal intentions or intentions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Father, for being with us today. Thank you very much, Panjikang and Dr. Bate. We want to say many thanks and gratitude also to Madam Kindness, who has been there to make sure that we get what is needed from us, and to Father Alfonso Kema over there in Rome. We thanks for your contribution. We want to say many thanks and gratitude also to the Director of Communication, Father Solomon Ikunti, and the Manager, Madam Joyce Bong, and number one supporter and promoter of our TV, Bishop Michael Bibi, that God may continue to protect and to bless you, to grant you quick recovery, good health, of course, strong enough so that we could continue pulling the flocks in the Diocese of Boya. Thank you very much, and God bless you.